good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink, Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Happy Throwback Thursday to you, our Good Morning Uganda family, 12th of January 2022. I don't know whether it's too late or too early for us to be throwing back to last year, but I feel like 2022 is one of those years we just really need to put behind. I would love and I'm very excited to hear what Robert and what Mollen this morning are throwing back to. But yes, thank you for waking up with us. It's another day as we're getting closer to the weekend. There are very many other things that are still happening when it comes to the finance sector, when it comes to the political sector, when it comes to the social scene. A lot is happening. We're going to be taking you through some of these stories. But first things first, Robert, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. How are you doing?
I'm lovely. I can't complain.
You're fine?
Yes.
Honest?
A few disappointments here and there, but we are going to handle.
You know, one thing I love with our job is even if you left home or you're upset, you must have a smile. You put everything aside, and of course it's then after that, as you get out of the gate, out of the studios, you pick it. So you pick it up and then you move on. So I must check my sisters if they are really fine or but anyway, that is what life is. There's always smooth sail, then you're going to find a bit of a hard rock somewhere, there's a hill. So life is all about hills and valleys. And when you're at the hill, don't laugh at that person deep in the valley, because it's just a matter of time. You're going to slope and you'll be in that valley. When you're climbing uphill, you know, no need for alarm. Very soon, you're going to meet the slope. And that is what life is. But I hope everyone is fine. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Thank you for making your choice to start your day. That's your own Good Morning Uganda. My sister said so much is happening, and indeed so much is happening. The Prime Minister is concerned about the rate of accidents we are registering of late. So she's called for a meeting. She's called for a committee to understand and find solutions to the increasing number of accidents in this country. And I think that is something really that I find very necessary. We are losing so many people on our roads. 2 days, 3 days, you hear dead in accidents, 55, 77, 79, and you're like, what is happening?
Yes.
But also yesterday we had some good news. And I feel this is something to thank God for first. Thank the wise leadership of His Excellency. Thank our scientists, our experts. But above all, thank you, the Ugandan who is watching us today.
Yes.
And people of Mubende and Kasanda, that it is your tireless effort and complying with the guidelines that saw Uganda yesterday being declared Ebola free.
Oh, yeah. We need to give a very serious hand clap. I feel like we have really done quite well. Yes, of course, we had moments where anxiety and pressure was kicking in, but Ministry of Health was very calm, and they did what they had to do, of course, with the help from His Excellency, you know, putting all that curfew and, you know, trying to lock down all these epicenters. So yeah, we are Ebola free. We can proudly say that right here on national television. Mollen, good morning.
Yes, it is a good morning indeed, and I want to say good morning to your family. Yeah, when you talk about Uganda being Ebola free, all I'm thinking about is there are people out there who have been very afraid of coming to Uganda because of that.
Yes.
But now I think it's a good thing that we might be seeing even a number of tourists coming to Uganda quite increase. You know, there was a holiday season from December into January, but then you look at the numbers that we were getting, it's just a good news that now we might be getting more numbers. And I know the tourism sector has not been doing so well, especially the fact that we were post, you know, COVID-19 and now Ebola. We needed to recover in that sector, but then all these pandemics and you know, that have kept us behind. But when I saw the minister getting very excited, and that excitement that was coming through from everyone that was around when they declared Uganda free from Ebola, I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. And I believe that is going to be a boost in that particular sector. But also, again, Philomena and Robert, I'm excited about the monies that are coming through towards NSSF. Now, being part of that, being a member in NSSF, I still have my questions. And the questions are, the 6 billion that is now being added to NSSF, where is it going? And who are the target beneficiaries of this money? Yes, they needed more money, but for what? Now, as members, why are we not aware of what this money is going to do? And I think there needs to be more explanation of how they're going to utilize that money. Yes, it's a good thing because there has been a lot in NSSF right now. So I think there's still a big question, and somebody better give us those answers. Yeah.
Yesterday, I saw the Minister for Labour, Gender and Social Development at Media Center trying to explain. I don't want to use the word defending herself. Let me use the word
justifying, maybe justifying.
I don't want to use the word defending. I want to use clarifying.
Yes.
VIPs clarify.
They don't defend themselves.
You know, there were allegations that that money, that slot of the 6 billion you're talking about, that she put it in as a way of asking for a bribe regarding the contract of then Managing Director of NSSF. So she said, this is money I put in the entire budget of NSSF. And it is upon me within my powers anyway to do that, and it's not anything to do with me seeking a bribe or whatever it is as a minister to use my capacity. 6 billion, heaven. That would be very, very much. But well, people began with taking thousands, then they went to millions, they went to billions, and now...
and the director in question is still in the same system. So what are you trying to clarify in that matter? Because this was an open issue that they did come out to even give contradiction between the minister and the director. The contradiction was there, but it seems like that has been patched out. However, this is why I'm concerned for the people who are members in NSSF. We might not need to know about your administrative issue, but tell us how the money is helping us grow.
Because
That's
at the end of the day,
one good thing is your savings are rest assured. But also,
the money that you cannot access, you don't even know.
When the problems, but the good thing is NSSF, in terms of being responsible to their clients, I must say they have done. At least every month, a saver is able to know how much has been deposited, what is your current balance. They send monthly messages.
I mean, it's really very informative.
You know what is there.
But I don't know which ghost is which hunting NSSF, because it seems, or is it that so much money that is there? Because I can tell you a series of people who have been at NSSF. Chandi Jamwa, if you remember.
Yes.
You know, it has been a chain of, there is always a problem. We have some little bit of peace, but then again, problems will come. This, you know, in Uganda they call it a chitavu ch'abakozi. There is so much that is there. You know, so much money that is there. And of course, money is one of the causes of sin.
Yes.
When people look, they'll look around, but there is something here. And the long fingers will desire to find out of how they get that something there. If they tell you how much they collect a month from savings, so they have money, and I think that is
their money.
Well,
if you have too much
the money
there,
for it's Ugandan money. It's money for the Ugandans. Yes,
so
they're
you
just
don't
there
have to
busy
be tempted to use the money. It's just these people have. Let me for lack of a better word, maybe corruption. They are just corrupt because this money is there. It's not your money. It's like a bank. Banks actually manage more money than we see in NSSF. So what are you telling us that you cannot handle such amounts and you will be tempted to use the money? Well, about big banks that have more than, I don't know, it's
speaking
just,
of money,
just corrupt.
speaking of money, government has actually released a 6.4 trillion Uganda shillings. Now, this money is supposed to be going to salaries of all these workers of government, MDAs, the ministries, departments and agencies, plus other parastatals, but also to implement very many projects. Now, in the last couple of months, we've had several complaints coming in from several ministers, several permanent secretaries of all these different ministries, talking about how they have a pending list of projects. We also saw a number of government workers complaining that they did not get their salaries for the month of December. It was quite a very hard and complicated month for them. So 6.4 trillion Uganda shillings is here, and it's supposed to be directed towards that effort. I am yet to see how it's going to be happening and how this is going to be implemented, which also again interests me, because yesterday the Ministry of Finance did release their the third quarterly expenditure, and they were looking at several things: the performance of the economy, looking at the inflation rate, looking at the performance of the shilling against the dollar. But there are certain things that the permanent secretary, that is Gobi, is something he said, yes, Ramadan Gobi, and he said all these accounting officers, they have a lot of work to do. And he said by the 28th of every month, you have to make sure you have paid people's pension, you have paid people's gratuity, you have done all these things. And also to make sure that you put out lists of all the payrolls on people on the notice board. For every government entity, you should be having a notice board, and to ensure that people have been paid. Now, if we are seeing issues like people not being in December, being paid in December, especially government workers, and the permanent secretary is saying that now, with effect, okay, from today, make sure you pay people's wages, you pay people's salary in time. Does that actually mean that things are getting slightly better? Because we know we didn't have money in the economy. Probably that is why we're looking at delayed payments for people in these ministries. So I don't know, could there be some green light at the end of the tunnel? Maybe we are fighting this thing?
That was actually good news. When I listened to Ramadan Gobi talk about these things, one thing he was concerned about is what you brought out, the areas. He says, I am tired of hearing this areas thing. People need to be paid, and I think this is how we were even seeing all these people demonstrating, from the nurses to doctors to whoever,
even service providers of several ministries and agencies. Yes.
So when you don't pay up some of these monies, you're just creating more problems for the economy, something we don't want to deal with. So yes, the accounting officers should actually be hurrying with their work to make sure that we don't again get into areas, because that's the start of even failing a few things. Because you even look at government parastatals, most of the projects that they did front actually in presenting their budgets, but when the money doesn't come through, that is you hindering their projects or the work that is supposed to be going on in these ministries. And I think that is something that Ministry of Finance is now trying to come through to say, yes, the money is coming in, but make sure that it's going to clear the things that we have set up in the budget, because these MBAs actually do present their budgets. And once you meet it in time, then they're able to do the work that they're supposed to do. But I think we should be getting away from this whole delayed payments.
Yes.
That is hindering us for sure.
But Mollen and our colleague, Ramadan, this is not the first time he has said that.
Yes.
Regarding salaries or wages, domestic areas, pension and gratuity. Actually, there was a time someone got a clip of him saying that, and it was rotating around. And people hadn't gotten this money. Let's say there is goodwill, but then there must be investigations to find out why don't people get this money if the money is there.
Why doesn't it come?
Yeah, because I remember when he was releasing the other quarter,
with this one. He said this one is going for salaries, areas, and the things that he mentioned. But the last time they released that money, it was a general going for
Sister,
most
I'll
of
send
the
you that
budgets
clip when he was saying
that were presented.
all accounting officers by the 28th you must have paid. He emphasized it. So there's a problem somewhere, I think,
Well,
that you have to investigate. Then
absolutely.
Yeah.
But also there was one important thing that I really took interest in when he said that all government institutions are expected to prepay for their utility bills, that is water and electricity, and failure to adhere to that, these service providers have all the rights to actually disconnect them. Imagine a whole ministry without water and power. It's very interesting. Anyway, we're getting back to some more
Problems
stories. Local stories. Robert, what do you have for us this morning?
I have very interesting stories here. I'll begin with the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda. But no, let me begin with good news. Let me begin with good news. I think I find that where Uganda was declared free of Ebola pandemic that ravaged the country from September 2022. The declaration follows an end of the 42 days monitoring period that saw no new case registered. Minister for Health Dr. Jenrutha Cheng said it took adherence with community guidelines against the pandemic to achieve this milestone. Moving on, the Vice President, Major retired Jessica Alupo, has rallied teachers for a continued deep ideological consciousness and mentorship of young people. Alupo said teachers who spend more time with learners ought to invest heavily in their broadly knowledge so that they can discern truth from facts. The Vice President was speaking at a 10-day leadership training for head teachers of some public and private schools from Buganda at the National Leadership Institute Chankwanzi. The 514 head teachers were drawn from various districts in central region, of which 107 were ladies. Now we move to road carnage, where following series of fatal road accidents that have occurred in the country in the recent past, the Prime Minister Robina Nabanja called an interministerial meeting to review and get a way forward to reduce road carnage. The meeting took place at the office of the Prime Minister in Kampala. And finally, from the local scene, the Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, Betty Amongi, has crushed allegations of soliciting a total of 6 billion shillings as requirement for renewal of the contract for Richard Byarugaba as the Managing Director of NSSF. According to Amongi, the said 6 billion shillings is part of the 220 billion shillings budget she approved in her capacity as the line Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, and NSSF's operation that include increasing compliance and coverage of the fund.
While cursing over the family of a British Iranian dual national sentenced to death in Iran, has told BBC Persian that authorities are preparing to execute him. Ali Reza Akbari's wife Mariam said the family had been asked to go to his prison for a final visit and that he had been moved to solitary confinement. The ex-deputy Iranian defense minister was arrested back in 2019 and convicted of spying for the UK, which he denied. The UK urged Iran to halt the planned execution and immediately release him. This is a politically motivated act by a barbaric regime that has total disregard for human life, Foreign Secretary James Cleverly tweeted. Now, earlier, a Foreign Office spokesperson said that it was supporting Mr. Akbari's family and had repeatedly raised his case with Iranian authorities. It has requested urgent consular access, but Iran's government does not recognize a dual nationality for Iranians. Since the chaotic withdrawal of United States forces from Afghanistan in 2021, President Joe Biden and his top aides have repeatedly expressed a sense of achievement that Washington is not at war for the first time in decades. But not far from U.S. shores, nestled in a Cuban harbor, the Guantanamo Bay detention facility is still operating as a remnant of the so-called war on terror that started after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Wednesday marked the 21st anniversary of the prison, known as Gitmo, an occasion that prompted renewed calls for closing the center. Detainees have detailed abuse inside the facility, and critics have said basic due process protections were denied there.
Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has released the final list of registered voters for the 2023 general election. In the list made available to political parties yesterday, Lagos State has the highest number of registered voters with 7,060,195, followed by Kano State with 5,921,370. The list showed that INEC registered 93,469,008 voters for the general polls. Now, these are the registered Nigerians who will decide who will become the next president of Nigeria among candidates of All Progressive Congress, that is Bola Tinubu, People's Democratic Party, DPD, Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party, Peter Obi, and candidates of other parties in the 2023 presidential election. A breakdown of the number of eligible voters indicates that men constitute 52.5%, while women make up 47.5% of the total figure. Now, Central California prepares for another storm expected to hit over the weekend. After being pummeled with several vicious storms over the last 2 weeks, Central California will finally catch a break, but only for a few days. Now, forecasters from the National Weather Service show precipitation amounts, if any, will be less than 1/10 of an inch through Thursday. However, a strong storm system is likely to strike around Friday afternoon through Saturday night, with the majority of the rain falling Saturday afternoon and evening. The severe weather is anticipated to last at least through next week. We expect these storms to continue at least through the 18th of this month, Governor Gavin Newsom said. The magnitude of this is not isolated in smaller communities. It is scaled across the largest state in our nation, he adds. Now, the state has already been bombarded with rain, floods, mudslides, snow, fallen trees, and power outages over last week following numerous atmospheric rivers. As a result, thousands have been left without power and forced to evacuate, and at least 17 people have died.
Well, in your morning dose of health advice, Robert has something for you.
I love your morning dose of health advice, and here I come to you with these products. Hallelujah, ginger tea, hallelujah, banana juice drink, and hallelujah, tamarind drink. Now, what these do, they boost your immune system. Much as they are very tasty, very sweet, you're benefiting, your body is gaining because it is empowered to fight off a number of diseases. And this has a ripple effect, because at the end of the day, you're saving monies that you would be spending, giving out to doctors for not being fine, but also you're less productive because your body is not healthy, either you're having a bed rest or something like that. So to avoid all that, simply get 1,500 any of these bottles at any retail shop, supermarket. They are there for you.
Well, good morning, Uganda is still with you all the way on this Throwback Thursday. Speaking of which, we're going to be throwing it back a little bit. When we get back, we'll be having more discussions about this whole Ebola-free Uganda and what's the plan now. What did we do? That probably some of the lessons we need to pick and keep for probably when most other emergencies come through, because you never know. I mean, no one saw Ebola coming, no one saw COVID coming. So how well prepared is Uganda when it comes to these outbreaks after all this experience we've had in the last couple of months? Good morning, Uganda. We'll return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Happy Throwback Thursday to you. Good morning, Uganda family. 12th of January 2022. I don't know whether it's too late or too early for us to be throwing back to last year, but I feel like 2022 is one of those years we just really need to put behind. I would love and I'm very excited to hear what Robert and what Mollen this morning are throwing back to. But yes, thank you for waking up with us. It's another day as we're getting closer to the weekend. There are very many other things that are still happening when it comes to the finance sector, when it comes to the political sector, when it comes to the social scene. A lot is happening. We're going to be taking you through some of these stories. But first things first, Robert, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. How are you doing?
I'm lovely. I can't complain.
You're fine?
Yes.
Honest?
A few disappointments here and there, but we are going to handle.
You know, one thing I love with our job is even if you left home or you're upset, you must have a smile. You put everything aside, and of course, it's then after that as you get out of the gate, out of the studios, you pick it. So you pick it up and then you move on. So I must check my sisters if they are really fine or. But anyway, that is what life is. There's always smooth sail, then you're going to find a bit of a hard rock somewhere, there's a hill. So life is all about hills and valleys. And when you're at the hill, don't laugh at that person deep in the valley, because it's just a matter of time. You're going to slope and you'll be in that valley. When you're climbing uphill, you know, no need for alarm. Very soon, you're going to meet the slope. And that is what life is. But I hope everyone is fine. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Thank you for making your choice to start your day. That's your own Good Morning Uganda. My sister said so much is happening, and indeed so much is happening. The Prime Minister is concerned about the rate of accidents you are registering of late. So she's called for a meeting. She's called for a committee to understand and find solutions to the increasing number of accidents in this country. And I think that is something really that I find very necessary. We are losing so many people on our roads. 2 days, 3 days, you hear dead in accidents, 55, 77, 79, and you're like, what is happening?
Yes.
But also yesterday we had some good news. And I feel this is something to thank God for first. Thank the wise leadership of His Excellency. Thank our scientists, our experts. But above all, thank you, the Ugandan who is watching us today.
Yes.
And people of Mubende and Kasanda, that it is your tireless effort and complying with the guidelines that saw Uganda yesterday being declared Ebola free.
Oh, yeah. We need to give a very serious hand clap. I feel like we have really done quite well. Yes, of course, we had moments where anxiety and pressure was kicking in, but Ministry of Health was very calm and they did what they had to do, of course, with the help from His Excellency, you know, putting all that curfew and, you know, trying to lock down all these epicenters. So yeah, we are Ebola free. We can proudly say that right here on national television. Mollen, good morning.
Yes, it is a good morning indeed, and I want to say good morning to your family. Yeah, when you talk about Uganda being Ebola free, all I'm thinking about is there are people out there who have been very afraid of coming to Uganda because of that.
Yes.
But now I think it's a good thing that we might be seeing even a number of tourists coming to Uganda quite increase. You know, there was a holiday season from December into January, but then you look at the numbers that we were getting, it's just a good news that now we might be getting more numbers. And I know the tourism sector has not been doing so well, especially the fact that we were post, you know, COVID-19 and now Ebola. We needed to recover in that sector, but then all these pandemics and you know, they have kept us behind. But when I saw the minister getting very excited, and that excitement that was coming through from everyone that was around when they declared Uganda free from Ebola, I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. And I believe that is going to be a boost in that particular sector. But also, again, Philomena and Robert, I'm excited about the monies that are coming through towards NSSF. Now, being part of that, being a member in NSSF, I still have my questions. And the questions are, the 6 billion that is now being added to NSSF, Where is it going? And who are the target beneficiaries of this money? Yes, they needed more money, but for what?
Infrastructure development, health sector, ICT, agriculture, education and sports, trade and industry. Not forgetting peace and security. This year's event will be held at Kakeka Grounds, Kakumiro Town Council, Kakumiro District. Long live NRM, long live Uganda.
The festive season is here and it's Christmas in 4G from Airtel. Get the most affordable 4G smartphone in Uganda, now heavily discounted from 250,000 shillings to 150,000 shillings only. Yes! 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones this holiday season.
Dial *175*94# to activate free 1 GB instantly and 100% double data on all weekly and monthly bundles for 3 months. Get one today while stock lasts from the nearest Airtel shop. Happy holidays this festive season with Airtel, the smartphone network.
Paying your bills the old way.
Let's go. Just need to buy some power.
Paying your bills with the My Airtel app.
Bro, there's a line.
You have the power in your pocket. The power to instantly pay your bills hassle-free. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
Oh, you're back.
Growing up as a child, I used to play the game with balls made out of milk pints, sometimes banana fibers, and at times balls made out of clothes. I had a dream to one day play for the best clubs in the Uganda Premier League with the hope of one day representing my nation at the big stage. I made it, and now it's time to represent my nation in the CHAN 2022 games in Algeria. I'm glad that UBC TVs and radios will showcase as we fight to bring joy and happiness to the people of Uganda. CHAN 2022, live from Algeria, starting from the 13th of January, is the answer to the call of duty.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
I congratulate the government, health workers, and the people of Uganda for your leadership and dedication, which have enabled this Ebola outbreak to be contained in less than 4 months. I commend the government of Uganda for declaring the outbreak immediately after it was confirmed and notifying WHO as required under the international health regulations. We thank donors and partners for swiftly mobilizing resources and vaccine developers for making candidate vaccines available in record time. Even in the absence of approved vaccines or therapeutics for this species of Ebola, Uganda was able to use proven public health tools to contain the outbreak. Congratulations. I salute the dedicated health workers, partners, and communities who work day and night to save lives. This outbreak has finished, but WHO's commitment to Uganda has not. We remain committed to strengthening Uganda's health system as part of its journey towards universal health coverage and a healthier, safer, fairer future for all the people of Uganda.
Well, coming in from the World Health Organization, and of course the same announcement that was made by the Ministry of Health yesterday, talking about how Uganda is now Ebola-free, making the official declaration. So yes, congratulations are really in order. And again, bravo to all the health workers, bravo to the Ministry of Health. The Minister herself, Dr. Ruth Jen Acheng. Now yesterday she made the announcement completely declaring Uganda right now Ebola-free. And if I may take you back, last year in September, we were actually, the announcement came in that we had Ebola that did start from Kasanda, which was the epicenter of this virus, the Sudan strain. And of all the strains we've had, Robert, we had never heard of the Sudan strain. No wonder we didn't even have any approved treatment from World Health Organization. And Kasanda, Mubende, these were the districts that were the epicenter of this. We saw very many medical workers being taken there. We saw very many changes that were put into place. But in the last 4 months, since the outbreak, 143 cases of Ebola had been confirmed, and 85 of which were male, 58 that is about 41% females, whereas by age 26 representing 8% were children, while 117 representing 82% were adults. And the virus in total claimed 55 lives. And amongst these 55 lives, we also had some medical workers, which was really, really sad. And because these are the people who are at the forefront when it comes to fighting. And we did host also a couple of leaders from Mubende. We had the Mubende RDC also coming a couple of times, you know, to give us more updates about what was happening, what government was doing, what was the plan. But yes, I guess we are done with this race, at least for now. We are completely and totally Ebola-free. We can actually say that, but again, doesn't mean that we need to be very comfortable and relaxed. But Robert, in all of these, I don't know, what was the one thing that really caught your eye, especially your attention when it comes to from the time it was declared, before we look at now what it means, how the Ministry of Health fought this war? Because I can say that the Ministry of Health has been fighting a number of wars for the last couple of years, especially here in Uganda. Yes.
Well, first, to me, on the 20th, when government of Uganda, 20th September, announced that we had registered our first case of Ebola, my only fear was this was the Sudan strain.
Yes.
But fighting Ebola for a country like Uganda is something we had done successfully about 3 times before this outbreak. And when people can recall, the medical superintendent of, I think it's Gulu Olacho Hospital, Dr. Lukuya, who died trying to save lives, and many others. So I was very sure that we had the capacity as a country to handle that. My only worry was, after the COVID-19 fatigue, were people going to respond? Because much as we would say this is a battle that government has won. To me, I want to say the Ugandans have been able to defeat Ebola. They have won various battles, and finally the war. Why am I saying so? When we had that outbreak in Mubende, and of course we had the Ara district of Kasanda frequently come here, I want to thank Philomena. Thank you. I want to thank Robert Kirabo. I want to thank other media personalities, not only us, that did not politicize, did not exaggerate, neither did they speak out of ignorance and excitement.
That's true.
Because there's also a bit of politicization. And you listen to some media personalities and you ask yourself, what are they insinuating? This is a matter of health. So I want to thank the Ugandans, in my opinion. Yes, even these doctors are Ugandans, but I want to thank communities. I want to thank the population. Because in fighting an epidemic like we had, you can have the money, you can have all systems in place, but if the people themselves are not complying with these, it can't work out. I'll give an example. If people in Mubende had not agreed or said we have an enemy here,
yes,
because human beings are crafty. Let me tell you, there is no amount of enforcement you can put if human beings decide not to go by that. But when they saw their colleagues dying, they understood that yes, this is real. If they told them don't move, let's limit movement, people at the epicenter did so. Yes, we had challenges, that something that began in Mubende went to Kasanda, registered cases, we remember, we registered in Chegegwa, Masaka,
yes,
Kampala, Mubende, Wachiso, Jinja, Bunyangabo. We had these, about 7 districts totally. But at the end of the day, we had 142 people that contracted.
Yes.
Now, out of the 142, like you rightly said, we lost 55 people.
55, yes.
But 87 recovered. Probable cases, these are people who could have died and they suspect, but they are not yet been tested. There were about 22. And in just 113 days, Uganda had declared, World Health Organization had declared Uganda Ebola free, because we had spent, yesterday we meant 42 days. That are designated by World Health Organization, with no infection, no probable cases, no contact that are being followed up, no people in isolation. So when you make those 42 days without registering any new case, without having any people you're following up, without having any people on treatment or isolation, then you're declared Ebola free.
Yes.
DRC on the final day, they registered a case. As they had moved the 42 days.
I know.
To us up in the final day.
Yes.
They registered a case and they had to go back. And then that is hard to manage. But with that success, that you have all these people, 52, this is big. And we pray for the families who lost their loved ones.
Yes.
But 87 recoveries, I mean 70, yes, it is 87 recoveries. It's also a big number. So for me, I want to say it was a battle well fought.
Yes.
The various battles, because in 7 of these districts where there was a case, Ugandans complied, but also the ministry acted very fast. Because with such diseases, delayed response makes the burden so hard to fight. By the time you wake up, there are so many contacts to follow up, you can't do what they call proper sweeping. Why? You know that Robert Kirabo,
yes,
died of Ebola. He works with Philomena, Mastiko, he works at UBC, so you have to follow the contacts. They go in isolation for the 21 days, then after you follow them. I think to me, That is where I want to commend the ministry and the resources that were available.
Which really brings me into maybe our next topic of discussion. In all of this, I think we also need to look individually at some of the things or the interventions that came through that helped us fight this in such a short while for a very serious outbreak like this. And you talked about I think that's a part of surveillance, you know, tracking and making sure, tracing all this, because I remember it was very hard for the ministry at the start to track and trace all the movements that had been made by the very first Ebola case, you know, because now the whole country already was in tandem. There was a lot of confusion and it was a bit hard. But later on, I think we grasped, or the ministry found a way of, you know, tracking and tracing some of these people. But in your opinion, Robert, what do you think are some of the things, again, that really helped out on the ministry? Because me, I'll tell you one thing. When it came to the health workers, I loved how the ministry came through with the training, the immediate training. I think they had about, they had over 2,000 health workers. We had those at the forefront, we had those that were doing the care, you know, and they were training very many things, including the social psycho support as well, especially for the ones, for the Ebola victims that actually survived and, you know, getting back into the system, getting back into society. So I believe this is one of the things that the Ministry of Health has really to be applauded for. They came in so fast and they did what they had to do.
Well, the Ministry of Health, I must commend them because they set up systems.
Yes.
Systems of reporting. They are, for example, in the epicenter, they empowered the local leadership. They empowered the village health teams from grassroots, that it was very easy to detect, it was very easy to report. And that's why you see that right from village level, they made sure that these structures already set by government, because the village health team workers and the VHTs have not come because of Ebola. They were there before. So Ministry of Health has built structures, and if they have funds, they can be able to go to the grassroots. I've not seen any government program where I can say that they have people they can rely on. These village health teams do a lot of work. They have undergone vigorous training in a number of diseases. They have proper reporting mechanisms. They are able to follow up because these are posted in the villages. So they're ordinary Ugandans, but they are volunteers and they are willing to learn. So the ministry recruits them, they train them. So they were trained very well. But also, let's go to science. One of the things that Ebola, if funds are available and systems are available, is easier to fight. There is something about this virus. We were all told that it has an incubation period of about 21 days. That's why someone will be kept in isolation if they are suspected to be contacts. If they have not developed symptoms, signs within 21 days, they would leave. Now, unlike COVID, where if I have COVID, Philo, and I'm next to you, an arm's distance, short distance,
yes,
and I talk, you contract COVID. Ebola, by the time a person is able to pass on the disease, most of the times they're unwell to be in the community.
Wow.
That is the other thing we must note with Ebola, that by the time a person is able to pass on the disease, they're either having a terrible headache, severe pains. So most of the times it was easy because that time maybe they are bedridden. That is why, remember, amidst Ebola, we had the MTN marathon. When I was asking experts that we hosted, they said that there is no way a person infected with Ebola and has reached that stage of transmitting the disease could be part of the marathon. Contrary to COVID, where we had those that never showed any sign, but they'll transmit the disease.
Yes.
So that is one unique factor that also enables the fight against Ebola to be a bit easier. That you're going to know that by the time Robert was able, he may not move longer distances. Second, he's with the immediate people who are taking care of him. So that also in one other way makes it a bit easier that by the time I'm able to transmit, maybe I can't come to do this show. So I'll be home not feeling fine, and I'm transmitting this to my immediate family that is looking after me. So that made it a little bit, also it's one of the factors that scientifically one would say made this fight a bit easier. That you had fewer people to follow up because you needed mostly those that are so close to this person. But strategies, I want to say, first and foremost, they had proper mechanism. The community was willing.
Yes.
Because they had seen people die of Ebola. Unlike when we had COVID, where it remained something very far from us, Congo, we had the stories.
Yes.
So it wasn't a new thing in the minds of Ugandans. And they really knew that, yes, this can kill. So the communities were supportive. They were willing to give information to safeguard others. And these coupled, of course, with support, finances. Monies were being approved left, center, and central.
That's true. And I mean, we even had very many other partners that came on board to support the Ministry of Health.
Donor partners did all it takes. World Health Organization did all it took to ensure that we get out of this. Unfortunately, by the time the trial vaccines came, we had no specimen because it had to be applied on contacts of persons that have been treating people with Ebola. But I'm told with science, there are other alternatives through which they can use still to test these candidate vaccines.
Yes. And there was also a daily follow-up of all the cases of victims and contacts, especially in all these areas, the epicenters, and also the ministry carried out EVD mortality surveillance, basically testing all dead bodies for Ebola in Kasanda, Mubende, Masaka, Jinja, and Kampala districts. I want to heavily believe that this also contributed quite a lot to make sure that they were able to contain it. But also, we had His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni make, you remember he made a national address, specifically putting the lockdown and even curfew. Of course, this was something that was not at first perceived well, especially by the people in these districts, because, I mean, we were just coming from COVID-19. And there was also fear because, if you remember very well, there was a lot of pressure coming in from different parts or different factions of people asking His Excellency to put you know, the epicenters under lockdown, and at first he was a bit hesitant, saying, let's first study the situation, and eventually he came through. So I feel like also that helped quite a lot to cut down on the movements.
In fighting such diseases, if you don't have a vaccine, they must be very clear, if you don't have a vaccine, because when you have a vaccine, you can live mobility. And having a vaccine is different from people taking the vaccine. If, for example, you have 90% of your population vaccinated, then you may not be scared, or 99, because, you know, you'll have fewer cases that will deteriorate or die. Now, when you don't have a vaccine, like by the time of the outbreak of the Ebola Sudan variant, we didn't have a vaccine. Now, what do? Is you restrict movement, so that you have very few people infected that you can effectively treat. Remember, it is government that footed or treated anybody with Ebola. Even when you went to a private hospital or clinic and they found out it was Ebola, it was entirely government footing that. So what you do is you minimize movement. And you have to put restrictions on movement so that you have people confined in the epicenter, you have them there. You concentrate all the resources you have to a particular area. You make your systems very vigorous, like we used to see them all the time. We are going to Mubende, officials from Ministry of Health, to empower the team on ground to do research. So you have a smaller area of coverage. And the few resources you have, you make sure you put them to proper use in that area. But when you open up and you don't have a vaccine, you're going to have a bigger geographical area. Like you saw, you have Kampala, you have Jinja, you have Masaka, you have Bunyangabo, you have Chegegwa. Then again, you have a Kasanda, you have Mubende,
yes,
with scarce resources. Because all these cases, remember, Philo, they had a connection with the epicenter. This young man who went to Luwero to consult a native doctor, then the wife who was here at Chitebi Health Center 3, then the ginger. So all of them, you would see that they had a connection with the epicenter. So had we not restricted, had government not restricted the movement, and people who kept on moving, then maybe you'd have so many districts and you don't have those resources. So that is what actually restricting movement does in fighting epidemics or fighting pandemics if it is global. That's why countries rush. But when they have vaccines, then the impact is very less.
Okay. But also from this whole experience, Robert, we've had COVID-19. We had COVID-19 in 2020, 2021. And then we have COVID, we had Ebola last year. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are certain lessons we pick from all of these as a ministry, but also as Uganda, as a country, to better ourselves, to be well prepared in case any other thing comes up. I mean, I will not lie to you, Robert. I did not know about COVID-19 until it actually came through. And then I got all the information and I saw the impact, you know, all of that, we all saw it. But what are some of the lessons that we pick from all these experiences, just in case if have any other endemic or a pandemic or, you know, an outbreak of any other disease that would probably shake us off a little bit? I mean, what lessons do we pick from all of this?
First, I would say this is a painful joy, because much as we've lost lives, it has left our health system stronger than it was. Why am I saying so? To handle epidemics or pandemics. We've had isolation centers constructed. There are some that are going to be destroyed. There are some that are going to remain. And actually, we've proved to the world that we can very fast set up isolation centers to begin with, because in fighting, such isolation centers are very important.
Yes.
2, research. There's so much research that has begun with these epidemics and the COVID pandemic. Let me give you an example. We're working on our trial vaccine. I mean, we're working on a vaccine as Ugandans. So it's going to be a fill
and yesterday
and
we
finish.
had,
yes.
Was it yesterday?
Yes, we've built capacity. We're in the process now to be able, and it's not only going to be the COVID-19, other vaccines as well.
Yes.
To be constructed here. I mean, to be produced here, or whatever. If we have to get reagents, fill and finish, we may not quickly go to developing our own, but still that is work in progress. 3, we've built systems that the 2,000 you've talked about who are trained in handling these, they have gotten that information. The village health workers, the channels of surveillance that were put in place, all these people got the knowledge. So when another pandemic strikes, this part just, it's all about calling them back for duty. You know, like you have reserved forces. When something happens and duty calls, you know who to rush to. You're no longer building structures. The structures are already there. So they just need to be revitalized. Hello, Robert, organize your district. Oh, do this, do this. Say, we need the names of... So the systems are in place now. If another occurrence happens, we can better handle it. Go to our health equipment. Each of these COVID, Ebola, government has been purchasing and has been improving some of these things. When you talk about the many beds that were bought, you get it.
Yes.
Yes, Ebola could be done. These beds are not going to be auctioned by government. They are going to still go to the health systems. The weaknesses that they identified during the fight of Ebola, in Mubende, in Kasanda, I want to tell you these hospitals now even look better than they were.
Yes.
Donors are not going to come to ram-shackled places. So they have left our health system better in terms of equipment, in terms of personnel that have been added with the knowledge in how to better handle and manage. We have systems in place. We are evolving or doing more in research, because we were told that it's not going to end, because when the trial vaccine came, we were done. Our scientists are busy working. How best in the entire world can we have the Sudanese Ebola strain vaccine? So all these are leaving us better than what we were and more prepared to handle in case this happens. But there's one thing I want to say. All seems over, but not very over. For example, one of the things, the men that suffered from Ebola, the men, we are told by scientists or health experts that it takes about 9 months to monitor these men and see if they cannot spread Ebola. Because the virus goes in what they call the gonads, in the sperm production duct. So this man can sexually pass on Ebola if they don't abstain or if they go for unprotected sex. They can pass on to their loved ones, and we may start from where we came from.
Yes.
So Ministry of Health has assured us to continue monitoring them, to continue supporting them until they can say that this period has elapsed, now you're safe. And that is one area I'm worried about. Ugandans, things to do with that word, I don't want to pronounce it on air, but that SEX is something that sometimes restrictions will fail. So I hope they will be kind enough. I know that we've come from afar. We need to ensure that we don't slide back.
Well, there you go. And Dr. Ruth Jenacheng had quite a lot to say yesterday, and we keep monitoring and make sure that we are very, very careful. And also, again, we continue to send our condolences to the families that lost some of their members, and again, our health workers that we lost in this fight.
We lost 6 of them.
Yes, 6.
And 16
yes.
Contracted, but we lost 6.
We lost 6, which is really, really sad. But I know that we are on the right path to finding the best solution. And also, I mean, Dr. Ruth again said we have other diseases we need to look at that are still killing us. Malaria is on the rise. She talked about HIV/AIDS. She talked about TB. So yeah, we are still in this war to fight all these diseases, illnesses, and infections to make sure we're on the right path. That's it from our discussion. We do have a video actually to show how we fought this war of Ebola, whatever happened all the way from September until the day we were declared. Just a couple of few montages here and there to show exactly what happened. I'll be back here with the big stories in the next minutes.
Soon after Uganda declared the Sudan Ebola virus outbreak, we worked with vaccine developers, donors, and the Ugandan health authorities to identify candidate therapeutics and vaccines for inclusion in trials. 3 candidate vaccines were identified, and the first doses arrived in the country on the 8th of December 2022, constituting an historic milestone in the global capacity to respond to outbreaks and prevent them from becoming pandemics. Our team helped design the trial protocols and trained 200 members of locally led research teams on conducting the trial according to strict international standards. My sincere appreciation goes to the health staff who saved the lives of 87 survivors by offering supportive care. I express my sincere condolences to the families who lost loved ones to this outbreak and the 7 health workers who died in the line of duty. As the outbreak officially ends today, it's essential that we review the response and lessons we learned for future outbreaks. The key role that communities play was amply demonstrated in this response and its initial challenges. We also saw the need to engage the entire health system, including the private sector. We're working with the Ministry of Health to plan an after-action review in this regard. One of the key features of this response was a collaboration with various institutions and mobilizing capacities across the board. Over the next 6 months, we'll be harnessing these lessons to inform our focus on health promotion and disease prevention. Close follow-up of survivors to ensure they are well integrated back into society will remain a priority.
On behalf of UNDP, let me extend warm congratulations to the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Health, and indeed to our development partners, particularly our core donors, the UN family, and many of the partners that we've been working with. And today the government has declared today Ebola free, and that is great news for us. And we as UNDP, the largest United Nations development agency, are very happy to be connected to this success story because of the intersection between health and development. And we've been doing quite a number of things to really be behind the people of Uganda, particularly looking at the issues around risk communication and community engagement, working with religious leaders, cultural leaders, traditional leaders, and making sure they own the process, they communicate, they have the voice, they have influence, and they can be able to articulate the issues to the people on the ground. And we have been able to reach close to 2 million people as a result of that, and we are very delighted that we've been able to help. But also in the area of human resource support, we have partnering with our United Nations volunteers and with the World Health Organization. We've been able to deploy 20 UNVs to WHO and to the Ministry of Health in the area of surveillance, making sure that they keep an eye on the ball, and therefore, again, great response in terms of our support in that area. The third thing that we've been doing very quickly is also helping around coordination at the national level, subnational level, and making sure that, you know, as the various committees are coming together again, that work is facilitated particularly through WHO, and we're very happy about that. But beyond the health impacts, because many a time people just look at the health dimension, there are socioeconomic impacts. We've seen the impact particularly in the tourism sector, where a number of businesses were closed, or some people canceled their engagements here because of the fear of Ebola. And therefore we're also looking at how does the country recover, what are the pathways for the country to recover. So it's a great time, and we invite you all who have cancelled your reservations to come back, because we are open for business. And congratulations to the people of Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Press review this morning, Daily Monitor. Government releases 6.4 trillion for salaries and projects. Of course, government ministries, departments and agencies that have for long been cash-strapped can now implement their programs, and there is a a breakdown of how much is going to be allocated for what, looking at wages, scientists, UPDF, payments of pension, gratuity payments, parish development model, public universities. The list is endless. World Health Organization declares Uganda Ebola-free country, and the big picture there, looking at some of the officials from the Ministry of Health, and also looking at some partners from all these, some representatives from all the partners, World Health Organization, and to mention but a few, but also some survivors of the Ebola virus. Family now lays claim to 370 billion Uganda shillings Kisenyi land. Teso herders seize cattle over Balalo invasion. And also in more news, normalcy returns at Elegu border. Rwanda makes U-turn on evicting Congolese refugees. And looking at NSSF, companies default remittance for 700,000 servers. This is why it's very important for you to get those notifications to know if your company is actually paying your NSSF. Government cancels loans for over 1,000 students. The Daily Monitor this morning.
And we cross over onto the New Vision, the big headline right there, showing finance releases 6.4 trillion shillings to government entities. And of course, that takes in payment covers pension, gratuity, PDM. Details are on page 5, but also salary increments for scientists, UPDF soldiers included in there. Now, also in the New Vision, NSSF to continue paying benefits. Details are on page 3. And they also look at the story of Wakiso woman gives birth to 5 children. They give you their pictures right there, and the father as well in the picture. Now, in the series, journalists experience as a patient in Butawika. That is pages 40 and 41. And they also give you the interview on Kampala roadworks, a cost not inflated.
Children. Yes. One word for that, I can't even tell. If you have quadruplets and triplets, and what is 5 children?
I guess that's a gift as well. I mean,
finances up to big check. But yes, looking at the Daily Nation as well, ghost workers paradise in the counties, and looking at complicity, about 25 governors promise staff audits, and also looking at only 8 counties reinforcing the investigations, looking at Senate dragging its feet on investigations, and also governors have ignored order to file responses. Silent war rocks Kenya Kwanza, and palace intrigues in Prince Harry's explosive memoirs. If you have been following up Mollen, it's been crazy. The memoir that was written by Prince Harry is
huge words he has for the
very
for
huge
the royals
words
right there.
Yes, I am sure tomorrow you'll be recommending to us one of those books.
Yeah.
And Gachagua takes war to cartels as well. And you could soon be required to wear masks again. Why? Well, the Daily Nation has that. And parents, teachers clash over junior high uniform.
Now we cross over onto the Citizen with the big headline right there. Major tax issues as budget preps start. Well, the government wants to propose favorable tax policies, so the experts will review the tax regime using the information gathered at this tax conference that is due to take place right there. They give you details in Tanzania's business environment and how to boost economic growth. They also talk about Uganda declaring the end of the deadly Ebola outbreak right there, and motorcyclists ignore safety rules for the money. That looks for more partners, and that is in shillings 452 billion, that is Tanzanian shillings. That is for facilities in this project. Government reiterates its priorities to envoys. That is all right there for you in the Citizen's copy for today.
And looking at the Daily Monitor sports, Cranes touchdown for one more effort. Swimming League to fire up USF calendar, and there is a tentative event list for you down there. And looking at some of the European transfers in the big capture, Chelsea have signed Atletico Madrid striker João Felix on loan for the rest of the season for a fee of 11 million euros. And we also have Chan that is going to be showing right on UBC. I think there are 32 matches. Yes, 32 games, and they will be running on UBC live, so you don't want to miss that as well.
And that is actually starting off right tomorrow. UBC will be showing all those games, and of course with the live commentary also coming in, great analysis to what is happening right there, and much more of that. Of course, we'll be giving you the fixtures right here on UBC.
Well, looking at the traffic updates this morning, areas around Ntinda, looking at areas of Naguru, Katalima, Well, it's very, very busy this morning. I am seeing a number of red stretches. Taking it from Chigowa, this is around Bukenya zone. Quite the traffic over there as witnessed, and looking at joining some of these junctions where we have cars coming in from several parts around this area. Clearly the traffic here has already taken over, and we do have it building up to the extensive parts of this area. And also looking at Magambo Road this morning, it's very heavy with the traffic very busy all the way from here getting down to this part, clearly showing the stretch that this is going to be already one of the most chaotic areas around roads around this area. And as you're coming in all the way getting closer, looking at Semawata Road this morning, as you're joining Tinder Road, it shouldn't be a problem. However, when you join Tinder Road, it's going to be quite a journey for you. It may be a little bit to navigate here and there because of the traffic that is building up on some of those roads. And of course, joining in from Naguru as well, Naguru Road is actually also busy already. Traffic building up this stretch here clearly shows that. And also looking at this part of Naguru Road, already heavy on the traffic as well. The red stretches have clearly taken over as you're getting closer and closer to Lugogo. Lugogo bypass this morning is also having some traffic. Already seeing these arrows as you're connecting in from Naguru all the way, you'll be witnessing. However, if you're leaving, if you're using this to exit and getting back to Ntinda, again, you'll be expecting some traffic around. Not very busy, but there will be some hiccups. And joining in from all the way to Lugogo, of course, around this place is very busy with the traffic clearly shown by these red stretches as well, and the arrows for people coming in from several parts. That is Nakawa and all the other extensive areas. So you'll be coming across against some heavy traffic as you join this Kampala highway. And that's it from the traffic updates. I could say general overview, it's a very, very busy, but also very important to note, and also a reminder, we already do have projects, the Kampala flyover projects that are ongoing, and there have been a number of traffic diversions. So if you're in these areas, you need to be very, very careful and also be very cautious, but also listen and heed to all these directions as put out by Uganda National Uganda National Roads Authority, that is UNRA. That's it from the updates on our roads this morning. We do have climate and weather coming in. I don't know, Mollen, what do you have for us this morning?
Well, this morning we look at what is unveiling, of course, with the climate news. We continue on the storm that is over California that seems to be hitting records, but they could be bracing for more. We're also looking at an extended drought in Tunisia, but also what is being done in terms of climate action, a government setting up their targets for this year, but also getting back home here, Philomena, we've had a little bit of a relief in terms of rains. For the last couple of days, we've been having quite some rains around Lake Victoria, and it seems like yesterday we did have those rains extend to a few other areas within the country, Western Uganda, a few places within Central, and today could actually be more exciting. We'll be looking into the forecast as well.
Well, there you go. I loved the weather yesterday and the other day. I am not complaining. Now, whether we get the sun or the rains today, I'll be fine. I'll be very flexible, whatever comes my way.
Don't tell me you're already tired of the rain.
No, I'm not. I am not saying that.
Yeah.
Mollen, the universe could work against me this morning.
Yes.
Well, I'll leave you to Mollen to give you more on that. Have a wonderful Thursday. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, we're looking at the 7th consecutive atmospheric river that has been developing since Christmas over California. And of course, this did dump more rains in the northern area. That was mostly on Wednesday, offering little relief for the state that is already devastated due to floods that have also been a result of the storm over the area, but also the gale force winds that have been, putting power lines down, throwing trees, and of course that has also prompted evacuations over the area. We're talking about northern California. But also on Wednesday, we did see more relatively minor but less rainfall, although the forecast forecast that is coming in right now from the National Meteorological Centers are indicating that they could be bracing themselves for another storm yet again. Now, it's far from over because they're looking at even downtown San Francisco that could be also bracing for more rains. However, they also did record amounts of rainfall that is for the month of December last year. But still, it looks like this is just a continuation over San Francisco. And at some point, you look at airports like the international airport in San Francisco, the Auckland, and the city of Stockholm that all recorded 16-day records over the same period. That was according to the analysis that was given out yesterday from the National Weather Center. And they're looking at throughout next week, they could be dealing with much more of those devastating storms. But for today, there is a little bit of relief. The rains will be less, but still there is an amber alert showing that people should get out of the area, especially those close to where there has been much more strikes in terms of storms, as the likelihood for more of that happening next week is still there. And of course, the power outage still in the area. They're looking at much more of that also continuing for next week. Now, this is why we did see President Joe Biden also coming up to warn the people in the area to listen to the meteorologists, to listen to the local authorities when it comes to evacuations, but also urge that government will continue to support in recovery in the aftermath of these weather events. But also you look at the fact that they have been battling this for the last 1 week, and now to brace themselves out for another will be much more devastating. Now, more to that, we're also looking at dangerous drought threatening food security. That is in Tunisia, and of course this has been due to the prolonged dry spells over the area. And what we do know so far is that a lot of homes have been affected. A view right there shows you a cracked ground that is near Sidi El Barak Dam, which was depleted, where the water levels were depleted. That is after prolonged days of dry conditions. Now, one thing to note from there is that you look at the rainfall, 1/5 of the normal since September. They have not had up to the normal rainfall abilities that they usually have for this season. So meaning that they will obviously continue with most of these drought events. Now, also in summary, you look at government limiting water supply to some farmers, especially the areas that have been close to this same place where we're looking at extended drought because of limited resources, but also the wheat farmers that are alarmed right now because of this similar crisis. They're looking at mostly the dairy crisis as well, food inflation that is driving anger at the government side, because now they have to deal with mostly food insecurity that is coming in due to this extended drought that has, of course, impacted mostly the farmers over the area. And of course, what we are looking at right now is that Tunisia has had 3 years of extended drought, and one thing that to note is that this has threatened harvests across the country, and of course with the northern area being mostly affected, that is where they have had prolonged dry conditions, but also they are pushing government to raise tap water that is supply towards more homes and businesses. But since September, they're also reporting that more of these close to 110 million people have had to deal with reduced rainfall conditions, which is why we're looking at more of the food supplies being limited over the area. And of course, Tunisia also adds to the number of countries within Africa that have had to deal with mostly these drought conditions in the couple of years. And of course, that is an extent of what climate change has been doing. And of course, you look at the fact that governments have made commitments to make sure that they are able to raise their targets in order to curb the crisis when it comes to climate change. But also away from that, we look at what is happening within, when we talk about climate action, there are countries that are stepping up their targets. India has been one of those. Just last week, they did release $100 billion that was targeted towards making their plan alive. That is when it comes to getting closer to what they promised at COP27. Now they're investing more into solar energy. They have covered a great deal when it comes to having solar panels across India. And of course, this is one country that has has also had to deal with extreme weather events for last year, and also this year is starting off quite with all these unimaginable forecasts over the area. Now, what we do know is that the solar project that they did announce yesterday will be mostly giving out to industrial sources. On the government side, it will be supplying industries on the government side, but also bringing their renewable energy capacity additional to the schedule and the power tariffs that they have had within the country. This is a very big adjustment for India, and of course they're coming through to say that these are the targets that we set across at the beginning of COP27. We'll still continue with that. Now, talking about COP, we do have one bid coming through that is from Brazil. Now, the Brazilian president has announced his bid to host COP30. Well, he has been very consistent when it comes to the fight against climate change, and he did come out to say, look, this is the one area that I am passionate about, and I'm going to make sure that Brazil is at the forefront of fighting and climate change, and of course also making sure that we are a lead to show the nations around the world that we can do it only when we work together. Now, his bid to host COP30 comes at a time where he also talked about more of what Brazil is doing, talking about President Luiz da Silva right there as he was speaking yesterday, officially launching his bid that was in the northeastern city of Mollen. And of course, this is fulfilling a promise that he made last year. Now, while he was attending COP27 in Egypt, he also did talk about the fact that you know, the Amazon being a huge part of Brazil, and of course the world relies on the Amazon being the biggest, you know, contributor when it comes to taking most of these greenhouse gases, mostly carbon dioxide. Now, we do know that there has been reports of deforestation across the Amazon. The president did say it is upon Brazil to protect the Amazon forest, and now he continues to say they want to host the 2025 UN climate talks. That is also good news coming from Brazil and showing their effort to be involved in the fighting the crisis, but also bring up more of what Brazil could do and fight climate change. Now, away from that, we also want to take a look at what is happening across the country. We'll be going in for the forecast this morning that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. We take a look at those numbers as well in terms of temperatures. And we have started off with mostly cloudy conditions developing that will be giving us rains for the western part of Lake Victoria. We're talking about Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe, and Rakai. We could be looking at quite a chilly morning for you. Temperatures will be at 23 degrees. Now, the southwestern part of Uganda, we're looking at Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi. We're also looking at Rubirizi right there. We're starting off with rainy conditions in the forecast for you. That will be going up to 24 degrees centigrade, quite a chilly one as well over there. And Elgon area, we're looking at Mbale, Bududa, Buko, and Sironko. We are forecasting rains that will be starting off at a chilly 23 degrees centigrade. And we could be looking at similar weather conditions later, even as we cross over into the afternoon. Areas of Tororo, Busia, Iganga, and Jinja, we're forecasting isolated showers. That is also starting off with a cool 24 degrees. And also we might be looking at a clearing trend later in the afternoon. That will be clearing off for mostly sunny intervals. Now, eastern Uganda, Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria, Kumi, good news for you. We have had mostly dry conditions for the last couple of days over there, but today we see rains in the forecast that will be across a few places, also in smaller quantities. But either way, that will also help to bring temperatures down. We're seeing at 27 for this morning. Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, and Nakaseke were forecasting rains that will be starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees, and also some of that will continue into the afternoon. We're looking at the central parts of northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, and Jumani. We're forecasting isolated showers that will also be starting off with quite a warm 27 degrees centigrade, but that will be later as the morning progresses. Central parts of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We're also forecasting rains that will be starting off with a chilly 23 degrees centigrade that will be coming in later mid-morning, and most likely it will be crossing over into the afternoon. And tapping in from our satellites, we're seeing much more of that rainy system that is developing across the Lake Victoria, and that is where we see the red colors right there, orange and yellow to blue. That is indicative of the cloudy systems that are starting to form over the area, and of course that is what will be bringing in rains. You can see that also extending to areas of Kampala, Wakiso, Entebbe, and also to the western side of Masaka. That system seems to be headed westward, so most likely areas in Mubende as well, you can expect to have that system dumping a few rains that will be crossing over into areas of the eastern part of central. We're looking at Nakasongola, Luwero, right there. You could be dealing with most of these rains coming from this system. Otherwise, the rest of the country is waking up to mostly sunny intervals and cloudy conditions for this morning. Well, that is it in terms of weather updates for this morning. We do have the agenda coming up, and also later than that we'll be going into sports updates, after which we'll be looking at Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen Kenyena, wishing you a good day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Welcome to English in a Minute. From home. A parade is a traveling celebration along public streets. It's a moving party. Nothing can ruin a parade. Except, well, rain.
Jonathan, this year I'm entering Washington, D.C.'s original Song-a-thon contest.
Anna, I hate to tell you this, but... Anna! I don't mean to rain on your parade, but that contest was last week.
No! The expression, to rain on someone's parade, means to ruin someone's good time. If someone rains on your parade, they take away your happiness. All of it. And that's English in a Minute.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, and thank you for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. It is that segment where you are part of the show regarding the topic of discussion, because we have guests in studios with whom we discuss issues of national importance. And this morning, in this segment, Good Morning Uganda agenda, we are going to be looking at something that concerns workers. We are going to be looking at workers' unions, but the apex union, which happens to be the National Organization of Trade Unions. Recently, we saw them change leadership. Now, I want to understand what is in stock for the new leadership and what is it going to be doing differently, but also why should you as a worker be a member of a union? And joining me this morning on set, I have the General Secretary, Uganda Hotels, Foods, Tourism, Supermarkets and Allied Workers, that is Moses Mauku, who in the new leadership of the National Organization of Trade Unions, not who happens to be the Treasurer General, Moses Richard Mauku. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. I wish to take this opportunity to greet Ugandans, especially the workers of this nation, and wish them a happy new year 2023.
Very interesting. Happy New Year. I think it's still not late. We are still in the first month there. Well, on the other side, I have Wanzusi, Robert namesake, who happens to be, that is the General Secretary, Infrastructure Union, but in the new leadership, that is of Notu. He is the Chairman Committee, Migrant Workers Committee in Notu. You're most welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much for availing us this opportunity to speak to the workers and the general public about the conditions as concerns the workers of Uganda. And we hope that something new is coming up to help make life better than it has been.
Okay, now we'll begin by getting a background and helping our viewers better understand. When we talk about trade unions, it's not a new phase in Uganda. Trade unions have been there. Globally, trade unions have been there, I think, for decades and decades. But Moses, help our viewer understand, what do we mean by trade unions? What do they do before we even go to the apex that brings all of them together?
Basically, if somebody wants to understand what trade unions do. Trade unions in other countries are referred to as labor unions. But the general term to refer to unions is workers' unions. But in the law, the national constitution provides for trade unions, the labor laws provide for labor unions. The three words or phrases mean the same thing. But these unions are organizations for workers and by the workers themselves. So trade unions are basically workers' organizations that are representative, voluntary, continuous, democratic workers' organizations that are formed by the workers themselves for purposes of advancing, advocating, promoting, protecting, and defending their socio-economic interests at the workplace. That is how I can best describe a trade union.
So that's why most employers fear them or don't like them?
It is only employers who are either ill-informed or employers who want to cheat employees, who fear unions or who don't want to work with unions. But the unions provide a very cardinal factor in improving labor productivity. And that is why labor unions are not organizations that are either charity, They don't exist by wishes, but they do exist right from the International Labour Organization, which is one of the arms of the United Nations. They exist by international standards. It is those international standards, the ILO conventions, covenants, treaties, that are localized into our laws down here. And each year, all employers in the world, all workers' organizations in the world, and governments meet in Geneva, Switzerland, to review the conditions of work. Because in every setting of work, there are three key persons that are there 24/7, and they have peculiar and particular interests. Every organization, you find the government, you find the employer, and you find the employee. So these three parties are very cardinal and principal in the production of any piece of work.
Well, now that takes me to Robert to understand when we talk about trade unions, as you've rightly explained. Now, let's go to the issue of today, which happens to be the National Organization of Trade Unions. Then these are different unions, like he has talked about. Now, what is this organization? What's its role? And what responsibility does it have over workers and the various unions that amalgamate to form it?
The National Organization of Trade Unions is an institution that was existed long before Idi Amin, but Idi Amin did not want a divided trade union movement. So he forced all trade unions in Uganda at the time, or the centers that existed at that time, to come together under one umbrella body, which was National Organization of Trade Unions. So NOTU, the name NOTU, came into existence in the days of Idi Amin, 1974, I think. And the purpose of NOTU, as provided for under the law, is to coordinate the activities of the various trade unions. In the case of NOTU, we have got 34 trade unions. These trade unions cover different sectors. Now, and in the process of doing their work, there are so many undertakings that require to be coordinated to be able to ensure that we achieve the purpose for which trade unions exist in Uganda. Because you'll find there are unions that may end up signing agreements, maybe employers refuse to respect those agreements. There are unions that are undertaking maybe activities involving strike action that require involvement of others to ensure there is harmony in the process so that there is no reproduction of activities that conflict with each other. NOTU as an organization also is supposed to function as a bridge between the workers and the government. Because if you have 34 trade unions, for example, it will be very difficult for the government to work with all the 34 trade unions at the same time. So what happened is that NOTU, with all the affiliates involved, now acts as a bridge between us, the workers, and the government. Although the individual unions can also work with government, but on matters that are not very, very controversial. So NOTU equally functions as a labor consultant, because there are times when people come from different parts of the world, or even from within. They want to understand certain things concerning labor laws. They want to understand certain things concerning rights. They want to understand certain things concerning issues to do with collective bargaining. So you should be able to find all this information in a single place. When you come to my union as infrastructure, I may have to advise you only in the sector where I'm covering. But when you are able to, when you go to NOTU, you'll find this information from all the unions in a centralized place. So NOTU as an institution has got a very big role in ensuring that they help the trade unions in Uganda to function properly so as to deliver on their core functions that are required.
Well, viewers, that explained what NOTU does, what trade unions are or labor unions are in Uganda. We now want to go to something that happened recently, and of course, this sent a number of Ugandans asking, because we knew we had the old leadership. It wasn't, we didn't see change of leadership through an annual general meeting or whatever, but we saw unionists coming up and saying, now I think time is done, though that term has not yet ended for specific leaders. Let's now have new leadership. Briefly, Moses, if you're at liberty, to give us a background to this. Someone's term is still running, then we wake up and it's come to an end.
I would say, first and foremost, is that conflict and disagreement is a normal phenomenon. And for the situation at NOTU, that has been prevailing for about 2 months, not necessarily 2 months, a little bit longer. We did not wake up out of the blue to say we don't want leaders so and so, but this situation has been brewing over the time, where the unions developed discontent with the way in which we were being served. And there were so many complaints rotating around the top leadership of NOTU. There were so many disagreements arising from the way they have been conducting business. And as a result, the unions sat together and demanded for the official organ meetings so that we can look into the issues and probably sort ourselves out. Under the circumstances, it became a little bit difficult because, as you know, when you talk about somebody's position, he or she will not just let go. He will try to defend himself. He will try to do everything possible to ensure that he retains a position. One of the issues is that the services were not being adequate according to what the unions were seeing, because the Secretary General was elected as Member of Parliament for a constituency in Buburo, and he didn't give enough time to NOTU. One of our colleagues who was the Deputy Treasurer of NOTU passed on during that COVID time, 2021. So those were gaps being created within the administration. Then the Treasurer General resigned because he had also joined the politics in their village, and he became a speaker of a district. And he didn't have enough time, so he chose to resign. So the services became wanting, glaringly wanting, that as unions who own NOTU, we had to rise up and say, we must sort this issue out. In doing so, under normal circumstances, those skirmishes came up. This one must go, this one shouldn't go, this one, then division, some 26 unions out of the 34 agreed on a position on 15th, and we put together a leadership that we wanted to. The 8 unions which we did not participate in that meeting complained at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and we had meetings with the ministry over the same issues, and we were guided lastly that we had better engage into dialogue as the best way to include all our divergent views so that we come out with a decision that is for everybody. So accordingly, on the 9th of January, we yet caused another General Council, which is mandated by the Constitution of NOTU to make replacements between the time of Congress to another. In case of need of change of leadership or filling any vacant positions, it remains the duty of the General Council to make those replacements as we wait for the term to end. And given the circumstances, this is the outgoing leadership was supposed to end their term December this year. We felt that we cannot wait because of the gaps that had been created. So that is why we resolved now all the 34 unions and conducted an election of the new leadership, including myself, to fill the positions that had fell vacant. And that is the status in which we are operating. But some people could have some divergent issues or opinions. They have the liberty to either appeal or to go to court. All I know is that the decision was made by all unions. And the NOTU is not an individual organization. It is unions. So once the unions...
what is your membership? How many unions come together under NOTU so far?
34.
34 unions.
34 unions. From both public sector and the private sector. So we congregate under NOTU, and all the unions this time agreed to make the decisions and change the leadership in acting positions until December 2023, when a Congress is supposed to be organized for fresh elections. So that is the situation that I can explain.
So that is the background to why we are seeing new leadership even before the term of the previous leadership erupts. Now, Robert rightly said, he's explained some of the challenges there that were. Now, with this new leadership, we know unionists are not easy people.
Yeah, easy.
They're not easy people to deal with. That is why if you look at the history of unions, it was all about solidarity, then fighting for rights. Unions seem to be very clever and very, would I say, exposed. If you have a factory, for example, and you have your workers are in a certain union, you must be a smart employee. Otherwise, otherwise you may find it very challenging. So, what do you have on table for the 36 union members? How do you tend to do things different? Otherwise, it is not new. I said unions are not easy for an uprising of our nature to see that also. You know, I've learned one thing, that when certain things that seemingly are hard to do are done, then they set a precedent. And then it's very easy for a reoccurrence. Now that these members have seen how they can change leadership, it would be very easy. So how are you planning to do things different?
Yeah, first of all, the aspect of leading people is equally not an easy task. It is a difficult task because the needs of any human being are never ending. They are really continuous. Even when you solve a problem today, tomorrow, a person needs something else. So we are dealing with people who continuously are demanding. But what happens is that even though we know the needs of the members of NOTU are not about to end, they will continue increasing. But we want a system under the new administration that is going to inspire. Because leadership, many people look at leadership from a perspective that of occupying positions. When you occupy a position, it's good, but it's good to occupy a position when really you know very well the people you are serving and how best you are going to help serve them. In our case, we believe that trade unions are composed of people who are intelligent, people who are able to contribute to the solving of their own problems. If, for example, you convened a meeting and presented an issue that you believe is very complicated, and you ask the members, what then do we do? And you allowed people to freely express themselves on what they think should be done to solve a given problem that they are faced with. I think it would already have helped you greatly towards resolving that problem. What has happened in the past is that even meetings alone could not be held. And now, when are you going to utilize people's intelligence? They believe they can contribute to the development of their organization. But an opportunity is not being given to them to be able to contribute what they believe should be done to resolve a problem. One of the things the new administration is going to do is exactly that. Because people don't want you all the time to think for them. Because like now, if I'm coming from infrastructure, I understand the sector very well. Honestly speaking, someone else who is coming from medical health sector is not going to start instructing me on how I should run infrastructure. All I need is an environment where all of us together, we can be able to share views and ensure that we are able to solve the problems that are affecting us. The other thing is that leadership, when we are operating in a society such as we are in, we need a leadership that is fairly creative. Creative, innovate. You know, you must be innovative to imagine now. For example, why are trade unions in Uganda weak? That is a question that must be answered. You must be able to conduct a study and find out why are trade unions not progressing the way they should. Why are workers of UBC not unionized? They have a right to belong to a trade union. There is a union that is even engaging with UBC to ensure that workers are unionized. But why has it taken decades to have these workers unionized? Nobody is in a better position to answer that question other than the leadership of NATO. We have employers who resist unionization.
Yes.
Who are these employers? And what makes them resist unionization when the law is very clear? You must respect trade unions. We should, at this stage, we should not even be telling the viewers, trying to interpret what a trade union is. They should be able to know based on the kind of work we are doing. Now, if at this stage we can continue occupying office and the people whom we are serving don't even know who we are, then really, how are you going to serve them? The only thing they will see is 1 or 2, 3 people on TV speaking. But in terms of reality, down, someone who is faced with a problem, he wants attention, he wants an organization that can assist that person. The organization is nowhere to be known, nowhere to be seen. The other day we were in Masindi, I think, was it Hoima? We were trying to organize workers there, and we went as not to. It was very embarrassing when the person there said, oh, UNATU, these are people of UNATU. For them, they cannot even, they said not to. We said, no, we are not to. They said, no, you are the teachers, UNATU, because UNATU has been doing a little bit of activities.
Yes.
It was a problem for us to explain what UNATU is to the people. And I don't think we want to belong to an organization that should function like that. And there is no any other person who can do this better than the leadership of the organization. And that's why we think this new leadership is going to help to ensure that the owners of this organization participate, and they participate effectively in the resolution of their own problems. That's why even when they were elected, eventually they were formed committees which never existed, so that we can have, out of the 34 trade unions that exist, every union is going to participate through the different committees in trying to make contributions on what should be done, whether it is on migrant workers, whether it is on issues of legal, issues of social security, and the others, organizing. That way, the organization, in our view, will be able to grow.
Well, Robert, having given us what they tend to do to revamp, to revive, that is not true, that they believe certain things weren't moving on very well. Well, just a reminder that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by simply going on our WhatsApp number. Use our WhatsApp number. It will be popping up on the screen. Just send on 0709 60 25 92. 0709 60 25 92. Send me a text message, send me a WhatsApp message regarding the topic of discussion. We are looking at NOTU's change of leadership. What does it mean to the workers? Because this is the apex union of all trade unions. If you're a unionist, you're a member of any union, well, this is the overall. So recently we saw an abrupt change of leadership. What should we expect? What does it mean to you, the worker or a person who belongs to any union? Please send on that number on your screen and I'll be able to read out your messages. But please also let's indicate the name and where you're watching from, because most of the times we don't have your name and doesn't really come out very well. So please just give us your name and where you are and send those in time. Sometimes as we are winding up the show, then you're sending your message. And of course, you have very pertinent questions. But it is this time and the guests have to move on. So please kindly send your messages right on time on that WhatsApp number. You can use that number for WhatsApp and also to send your text messages. I'm still with Moses Mawuku, who now happens to be the Treasurer General of NOTU, and I have Wangusi Robert, who is the Chairman Migrant Workers Committee of NATO. These are members of the new leadership with whom we are looking at the way forward. Now, Moses, what are some of the challenges? Because we know there could be challenges that you feel the public must know, the workers must know, or even government should know and look at. Then we see what could be the possible way forward to that.
Thank you, Robert. I would wish to first and foremost add to what my brother has submitted. The functionality of National Organization of Trade Unions is structured, provided for by the Labor Unions Act. While we have it in black and white on what our functions, our mandate is, it is important to deploy the necessary strategies to achieve for purposes of ensuring that the ordinary worker gets to achieve what she is meant to achieve by his representative organization, the union, and not to the apex body. One of the biggest challenges that unions have had in Uganda is compliance with the law. It's one of the biggest challenges we have faced. We have laws, 8 labor laws, but many employers, many workers do not even know the existence of these laws. So there has been little awareness of these legal frameworks to those they intend to assist. And those are going to be some of the areas of concern to emphasize on awareness raising, like we are doing even now,
yes,
so that people in the working fraternity understand what their rights are, to understand that joining a labor union is a constitutional right, and it's also a legal right. Though sometimes when you go to organize or recruit employees, because of the ignorance of the law, the employees themselves first subject you to a lot of questions themselves, because they don't know that they have rights in the law. And the employers, on the other hand, are busy trying to discourage. These people just come here and pick your money. They are not going to assist you, and you know, all those forms of
they're going to create confusion here and there. They have
been
problems.
Peaceful. When you engage with them, they are bringing sacks of money to compromise you. If you are a weak person, you will go for the money, and the following day they inform everybody that that general secretary picks money. So some of these things have been happening. So we want to have a keen eye on doing our supervisory role amongst even our affiliates. We want to continuously raise awareness of the stakeholders, the employees themselves, the government officers. Some of them don't comprehend these laws, but somebody is even a labor officer. You know, we have that other problem where under decentralization, the labor function was decentralized, and you find it is local government which is recruiting a labor officer. And many districts have no labor officers. They don't find value. But every district has companies, organizations, which employ workers. And it is the function of government to inspect companies, to ensure that these companies meet the standards that are required in law. We have very few labor inspectors, for example. So somebody can run a company with 100 workers, and he has never seen a labor inspector in 10 years. But he's managing his company. With 100 workers, they do not even subscribe to NSSF. Somebody is called a casual employee for 5 years, and it is okay. But that man, and when they meet, they say, I'm paying my people very well, I'm one of the best employees. They are not observing the provisions of the law. And these are things that we want to focus on and ensure that we do what is right of us. And the employer must do what is right of him. The employers have rights and obligations. Equally, government has rights and obligations. If a government registers a company, that is how a company will come into existence. You must secure registration by the Ministry of Justice. This department here that registers organizations. So until you have a certificate, you are not a company. So by merely the government giving you a certificate to operate, then they will qualify to come and pick taxes from you every day. Everything you sell, there is VAT. The local government picks money from you for ground rent, many taxes that companies pay. So that makes the employer existent there 24/7. And through representation, local government comes in for different, national water comes to pick money for water. They will not even allow you to drill your own water from even when you have the capacity. You see, so those are rights that derive from the obligation of government registering you. Equally, the employers have the rights and obligations. The employees also have similar obligations. You cannot demand for a salary before you work. So the obligation is for you to work. After the month, then demand for
salary,
which is a right. So those are some of the things which people need to understand. And that we do not exist by chance, but we exist by law. And we must undertake our mandate in accordance to what the law provides, but using strategies that are innovative in nature so that we can achieve what we wish for our workers in Uganda.
Well, let me now look at some of the questions that are coming in, some of the messages that are coming in, but I just want to remind you, you can use the number, it will be popping up on your screen, 0709 60 2592. That is the number on your screen. Send me a text message or a WhatsApp message. Now, let me begin with some that have come in. Thank you. Good morning, Uganda. I'm Aaron from Ombarara. I really think NOTU will benefit workers as in terms of labor laws. Thank you for watching. Then, this is Livia Sajon watching from Hoima Kijungu. From Hoima Kijungu, how will this help in the Department of the Union, where the former members not working well? Do you get that?
I've not.
Let me read this message. This is Livia Sajon, watching from Hoima Kijungu. How will this help in development of the Union? That's the question. Where the former members are not working well. Okay.
Well,
let's
probably
go.
There are some members who may not be satisfied with the services of the unions. Maybe that is what she was trying to imply.
Let me just have all of them, rush through them very fast. Baleke Moses, General Secretary, National Union of Drivers, Cyclists and Allied Workers. Thanks for the new leadership of NOTU. We expect a lot from them. Kongs to General Bigirwa, Mauku, and Robert. God bless you. Then, good morning, panelists. The reforms at NOTU are welcome, and most importantly is the vision and mission of the organization. Let the leadership trickle down on the common person in the labor market. However, they should desist from being used by politicians to fleece workers' money, all to be used to connive and deny workers their basic rights. That is Yasini from Kampala. And hello, good morning. This is Bashir from Matuga. Thanks for the show. Thank you, Bashir. Well, let me first have this answered as more are coming. And of course, that will depend on the time factor. Now, Moses, you will be answering that avoiding being used by politicians, conniving with employers, and so on. Let's begin with that.
Well, trade union leadership, I can say it is a calling. Because by definition, like I made mention in the beginning, it is a voluntary organization. Though those who climb and work for these unions get paid. But the basic principle is voluntarism. There are so many things that we do, so many things for no pay. All you yearn to have is if somebody can only say thank you. We have helped so many employees. Section 66 of the Labor Unions Act give us liberty to represent anybody, any employee, whether a member or no member. We can always, and we have always done that at individual level. And that is what we expect not to be doing. We shall have a desk that supports unions, because unions have different capacities depending on their membership in as far as numbers are concerned. The unions are more able than others in some of the issues. So what I can pledge is that we want to start on a page that is going to focus on things to do with social dialogue. We have had this problem of mainly public service unions. You see, many people have not known why medical workers union always go on strike. The reason basically is that the bureaucracy in government, the persons, the officers in the government who make decisions that affect a small person in Karenga, in Kotido, in Kambuga, are made by a permanent secretary sitting in Wandegea. And many of these workers don't even know they are permanent secretary. They probably see them on TV. But they have issues day to day that affect them. So the union must have to meet either the PS or the minister to resolve small things. So when these things build up over the time, what comes next is to invoke the law. And one time I was here and I was telling you that no teacher is going to be dismissed when UNAT went on strike, the last strike they had. I assured the people here that not one teacher will be dismissed by government. And no one was dismissed because of that strike. Because the government knows its mandate, its role. But sometimes that bureaucracy and maybe it is, I don't know, the arrogance. Sometimes they don't want to succumb. When a small worker in Kambuga is also saying that I will not work. A worker in Kanungu is saying we are not reporting. So they feel offended. But this worker is utilizing the very laws government has made to give him or her the right to withdraw his labor. This is the missing link. Many of our workers have not known the powers that we have as workers, the rights that we have as workers, and our obligations. Obligations always come first, but it's important for you to know that this is my right, this is my obligation, so that you function ably. Then, on the matter of compliance, it is going to be key in our leadership. We want to ensure that we publicize, we raise awareness of everybody concerned, and then demand for compliance. And if you refuse stubbornly, then we shall disorganize ourselves. Because we are not going to watch when people's rights are being trampled because I know somebody in government. You know, there is that thing of some employers using the names of politicians. If you do this, I'm going to call State House. But State House is Uganda, and it is for us all. It's not for only employers. You get? So these things we want to encourage employers. If you have been asked to manage, or if you are an investor, you do what is right of you as an investor. It does not make sense to government. The very government you are claiming, you know, big people in government. When you are employing 500 workers, only the 20 pay as you earn. The rest are all casuals. They don't even contribute to NSSF. So such an organization is as good as useless. It provides indecent work, which is not beneficial to even the person doing it.
Well, Moses, time is flying so fast. I'll now, of course, some messages, but time is also much on my side. However, let me just go through them. Hello, good morning. I hope the way you're pointing to such good issues really happen. This is from Ginger Industrial City boss, and I count on you for our improvement. Well, Robert, let me have your parting shot.
Yeah. There is someone who sent a message, and he was saying that how are you going to work together? Is it? I cannot frame it. I can just paraphrase. He was saying that yes, you are raising good issues, but how are you going to be able to achieve them if you are not working together? And maybe I could combine that with what you have just read. Someone said, we hope that the things you are speaking, you are going to be able to do them. First of all, the people who are watching us, I would want you to be encouraged. I am aware that we have lived in a society where so many things have gone wrong. And sometimes what is wrong is being accepted as the way of life. So much that sometimes when you come out to say this is possible, people look at it with a lot of resentment. Maybe sometimes it may not come to be. But you see, we have come not really to bring heaven on earth. We just simply have a belief and a feeling right now that what has gone wrong can be corrected. And we want to make a contribution, positive contribution. For the time we are going to be in office, up to a time we shall leave and other people will come and continue, because these trade union struggles, we are not the founders. We found them here, they have existed for decades. But I would want to say that NOTU, in the current state in which it is, has reached a stage of realizing that there is a problem that we must be able to address, and it has made a commitment to everyone, including the leadership within. So we are going to work together. In fact, we have started working together, because originally we had disagreements. But I think these disagreements, we have resolved them, and we have now committed ourselves to moving forward. I just want to make a comment on briefly on the employers, who Moses has made a very elaborate explanation on employers in Uganda. One of the things I really want to tell them, it's not going to be easy for those who choose to disrespect workers' rights.
Okay.
Under this new administration, one of the assurances we can give those employers, it is not going to be easy for you who refuse to respect workers' rights. You make workers work excessively for long hours, you don't pay them overtime. Workers get injured, you don't compensate them. You came and found people in good health and said, I'm giving you a job so that you can live a decent life. But at the end of the day, my hand is cut off and you are not even caring about compensating the work. It's not going to be easy for you. You employers who do not want to pay NSSF, actually the majority of employers in Uganda don't contribute to NSSF. NSSF as an organization is just contributing. I think it has just about 1 million members. We don't want that to happen. We want everybody who is here to contribute, because this is something that's going to help the workers in the future.
Well, Robert, time is not on my side. I hope, Mauku, you can summarize in a word or two.
Oh, thank you, Robert, for giving us opportunity once again. I want to salute Ugandans, and as I conclude, I want to request the cooperation of everybody, especially the stakeholders. The government, we want to cooperate with you. We want to cooperate with employers. We want to cooperate with the workers. We want to introduce a system of inclusion. And we shall inform you what we intend to do, what our mandate is, what yours is, and we use the social dialogue to iron out these issues. Where it fails, then we shall have no option but to invoke the law. And that is what I wanted to inform Ugandans, that let us get ready to assist ourselves, do our work in a legal manner.
Well, I want to thank you so much, gentlemen. That is Moses Mauku, who happens to be the General Secretary of Uganda Hotels, Foods, Tourism, Supermarkets and Allied Workers Union, and he is currently the new Treasurer General at the National Union of Trade, the National Organization of Trade Unions, and of course Wanzusi Robert, who is the General Secretary Infrastructure Union and the Chairman Immigrant Workers Committee, National Organization of Trade Unions. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations upon your new tasks as leaders. We hope all goes well. And of course, Chris, who had sent a message here saying, Chris Entale, Bukwai, Chenjojo, most union organizations are siding with employers and not employees. I think that is a message for you. Employers and not employees. You're siding with employers and not employees. And of course, we also have so many coming in here, but well, I'll pass the messages to these gentlemen and maybe they'll get in touch with you at their liberty, because the number of questions for you here and expectations. I'll see you in the next hour. Ruben is ready to take you through sports updates. Keep it with us here on UBC TV. Good morning.